Okay, so here we go. We're going to finish up night. We only have 3 pages left. In the last section, Ellie had to say goodbye to his father. His father died. But as we saw, he didn't really feel all that sad about it because he just wanted to be able to take care of himself. So much is going on right now. The end is so near, and he's not doing well either, that he really was feeling overwhelmed by having to care for himself and his father. So it says, I remained in Buchenwald until April 11th. I shall not describe my life during that period. It no longer mattered. Since my father's death, nothing mattered to me anymore. I was transferred to the children's block, where there were 600 of us. The front was coming closer, meaning the war front. I spent my days in total idleness, with only one desire, to eat. I no longer thought of my father or my mother. From time to time I would dream, but only about soup, an extra ration of soup. So let's go over to the chart, and we're in the final box now, so we'll make a note on 113 that he stayed in Buchenwald until April 11th. And on that day, the camp was liberated. And his father, let's see, if we scroll up, we made a note. So his father died in January. So from January to April, he says, I'm not going to bother talking about what happened because after my dad died, nothing really mattered anymore. And we'll make a note of that too in the dad box. So after his dad dies, he admits that nothing mattered to him except food. Pause it if you need to. On April 5th, the wheel of history turned. It was late afternoon. We were standing inside the block, waiting for an SS to come and count us. He was late. Such lateness was unprecedented in the history of Buchenwald. Something must have happened. 2 hours later, the loudspeakers transmitted an order from the camp commandant. All Jews were to gather in the Appelplatz. This is the end. Hitler was about to keep his promise. Meaning they think that they're all going to be lined up and killed. The children of our block did as ordered. There was no choice. Gustav, the Blockelteste, made it clear with his club. But on our way, we met some prisoners who whispered to us, Go back to your block. The Germans plan to shoot you. Go back and don't move. We returned to the block. On our way there, we learned that the underground resistance of the camp had made the decision not to abandon the Jews and to prevent their liquidation. As it was getting late and the confusion was great, countless Jews had been passing as non-Jews. The Lagerteste had decided that a general roll call would take place the next day. Everybody would have to be present. The roll call took place. The Lagerkommandant announced that the Buchenwald camp would be liquidated. 10 blocks of inmates would be evacuated every day. From that moment on, there was no further distribution of bread and soup, and the evacuation began. Every day, a few thousand inmates passed the camp's gate and did not return. So what happened to those people that were liquidated? Ellie doesn't know. He just says that they left and didn't come back, and he never really found out what the deal was. But the whole thing about Jews passing as non-Jews, it's getting so hectic in the camps because the war's almost over. And the Nazis have no direction from what to do because all of their leaders, like Hitler and Goebbels, they're all like on the front lines and can't get messages about what to do. So they're all panicking. And obviously the prisoners, the Jews and everybody else are taking advantage of that. So they're all just kind of intermixing in hopes that they'll pass for non-Jews and maybe survive. On April 10th, there were still some 20,000 prisoners in the camp, among them a few hundred children. It was decided to evacuate all of us at once, by evening. Afterward, they would blow up the camp. And so we were herded onto the huge Appelplatz in ranks of 5, waiting for the gate to open. Suddenly, the sirens began to scream. There was an alert. We went back to the blocks. It was too late to evacuate us that evening. The evacuation was postponed to the next day. Hunger was tormenting us. We had not eaten for nearly 6 days, except for a few stalks of grass and some potato peels found on the grounds of the kitchens. At 10 o'clock in the morning, the SS took positions throughout the camp and began to herd the last of us toward the apple plots. The resistant movement decided at that point to act. Armed men appeared from everywhere. Bursts of gunshots, grenades exploding. We, the children, remained flat on the floor of the block. The battle did not last long. Around noon, everything was calm again. The SS had fled, and the resistance had taken charge of the camp. At 6 o'clock that afternoon, the first American tank stood at the gates of Buchenwald. So when it says there was an underground resistance, it just means that there were a group of prisoners within the camp that decided we're not going to take this anymore, and we're going to try and stay here as long as possible because we're about to be liberated if we can just stay here. So they took matters into their own hands. How they got the weapons, who knows? But the point is that they did, and that they were able to get the SS to either retreat or they killed them. And it says that at 6 o'clock on the night of April 10th, American tanks came into Buchenwald. So we'll make a note of that. It's on page, 114? 115. So on 115 at 6 p.m. on April 10th, American tanks came into Buchenwald. Our first act as free men was to throw ourselves onto the provisions. That was all we thought about. Oops. Oh, goodness. No. That was all we thought about. No thought of revenge or of parents, only of bread. And even when we were no longer hungry, not one of us thought of revenge. The next day, a few of the young men ran into Weimar to bring back some potatoes and clothes and to sleep with girls. But still no trace of revenge. 3 days after the liberation of Buchenwald, I became very ill, some form of poisoning. I was transferred to a hospital and spent 2 weeks between life and death. One day when I was able to get up, I decided to look at myself in the mirror on the hospital wall, on the opposite wall. I had not seen myself since the ghetto. From the depths of the mirror, a corpse was contemplating me. The look in his eyes as he gazed at me has never left me. And that's the end. If you would like to read the supplemental material, there's a little blurb about his Nobel Peace Prize speech, which we did read, but this is the entire speech. So what we read was just little excerpts, and this is the entire speech. So if you would like to read that, feel free. So final comment about his mental and physical state. So on 115, Ellie says that 3 days after the Americans arrived, he got very sick and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. When he saw himself in the mirror, he no longer recognized himself. And obviously, thinking about it literally, it's like, yeah, no wonder you don't recognize yourself. You've probably lost half your body weight, and you look like a corpse. You look like a dead man. But the figurative side of that is he's lost everything. His father died. His mother died. His youngest sister died. He doesn't know where his other 2 sisters are. We do know that they make it because he never says that they died, but he doesn't know where they are. He's alone. He's just recovered from some sort of poisoning. He has no family. He has no faith. And he's only 16. And he has seen so much and experienced so much that what he's pretty much saying there, that a corpse was contemplating me. It was sort of like his moment where he realized his innocence was completely dead. Like he knew, deep down that his childhood had been over for some time, but it's in this moment that it's just staring him back in the face. Like, you have gone through so much. You will never have a normal life now. So that's the end of the book. We are going to do a video chat on Monday at 10 o'clock to 10:45-ish, because you do still have to do some sort of final assessment for the book. It's going to be a Socratic seminar, and we will talk about the questions and about what you can do, because there's options in terms of how to complete it. So please answer the invite for that Socratic seminar. And also, at this point, your night chart should be filled in. So please make sure you turn that in by this Sunday at midnight.